All right, welcome to the protein pathway lesson. So this lesson is going to strictly focus on just proteins and how our eukaryotic cells actually manufacture proteins. So just to go back about 2 weeks ago, we started to learn about prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Remember, prokaryotic are simple cells. The only organisms on Earth that are prokaryotic are bacteria, and they do not have any nucleus. They don't have membrane-bound organelles, so they're really simple inside. They don't have all of these organelles that you can see here in this picture. They don't have that. So when you see an image of a prokaryotic cell, it doesn't look anything like this, okay? It doesn't have all the internal contents. But with eukaryotic cells, which we've been learning about, which is what this cell is pictured here to the right, they have all of these organelles on the inside. And these organelles, we've learned, all have jobs. And those jobs are specific, but they're not isolated. So today, we're going to learn about a type of job or pathway that manufactures protein. And it's not just one organelle doing it. So there's many that work together. So what are the organelles that actually do all this? So to make a protein in a cell, in a eukaryotic cell, the nucleus is involved in it, the ribosomes, the ER, remember there's a smooth and a rough, the Golgi, and the plasma membrane. Okay, so these cell organelles or parts, cell parts, are all responsible for the manufacturing of protein. And they do not work in isolation. They work with each other, kind of like when you have different players on a team, and each player has a specific role in getting a goal or a basket, and so they work together for that common function of scoring. Same thing here. These are working together for a common function of making protein. So if you recall, the nucleus is this movement. So we're going to do some kinesthetics here. The nucleus is this movement. The ribosomes is this movement. The ER, if you remember, is like the hamburger. The Golgi is the packaging and distributing organelle, and it packages and distributes proteins in structures called vesicles, okay? And then those vesicles, or protein packets, you could say, go through, out of the cell, through the plasma membrane, okay? The plasma membrane looks like this. Remember, we said they are two bunny heads with ears attached. So again, nucleus, ribosomes, ER, Golgi, and then it goes through the cell membrane. Okay? So if you could remember nucleus, ribosomes, ER, Golgi, and then the plasma membrane, you'll know the pathway, okay? Because one leads to the other. So the first thing that happens with the nucleus part, let's see if I can get this here, and we'll do red. Where am I at? Okay. So if you recall, the nucleus has DNA inside of it, okay? So here we have the DNA, okay? The DNA is actually inside the nucleus, and if you remember, DNA is not allowed to leave the nucleus. It actually has to be transcribed, okay? So that means that whatever message is in the DNA, it has to be transcribed like into another language. So if you are in Spanish right now, or French or German, and let's say the word cat is English, to transcribe cat into that language is what we're doing here, but with DNA, okay? And I don't know what cat is in Spanish or anything. You can tell me another time. And the language that it's transcribed into is RNA. Okay? So then, DNA, you can do DNA, and you want to write this stuff down, is transcribed to RNA. Now, does RNA stay inside the nucleus? No, it doesn't. It actually leaves the nucleus. Okay, because the purpose here is to get the message out into the cell body, okay? And DNA can't leave the nucleus, so it has to have RNA do it. And RNA does that, and if you recall, the nucleus, the design of the nucleus is that it has lots of pores. And those pores are holes, and those holes are where the little RNA dudes come out, okay? So the RNA leaves the nucleus, and then from the nucleus, it actually goes to the ER. You could put ER for short here, the endoplasmic reticulum. The ER is actually located right next to the nucleus. So if you look at this picture, here's the nucleus, and right adjacent to the nucleus is the ER. So it's conveniently located to send RNA from the nucleus to the ER, okay? So then, when it goes to the ER, it actually attaches to the ribosomes there. Because the ribosomes are the things, or the factory workers, that will make the protein. So the RNA actually has a message to put things together, called amino acids, to make proteins, okay? So it'll bring all those things together. It's kind of like bringing all the ingredients together to make something. So it makes that protein, okay? Then, where does it go? Well, the protein's not packaged correctly yet. So then, it actually travels from the ER to the packaging organelle. And if you remember, the packaging organelle is this one. That's the Golgi. So it will actually go to the Golgi. You can just put Golgi for short, okay? And there it is packaged, okay? And then it's sent out of the cell. Now when it leaves the cell, it actually has to go through a membrane. And that membrane is called the plasma membrane. Remember, the plasma membrane is also called the phospholipid bilayer. It's also called the cell membrane. And I don't know what they'll say on the test, but I want you to know all those, okay? Those are all interchangeable. They're all acceptable as answers too, okay? So it goes out through the plasma membrane, okay? And then, where does it go? It actually gets carried out into your body to wherever it's needed. And it does so through your circulatory system, which is your blood, okay? So it'll send that out to wherever it's needed. An example would be like, let's say you worked out really hard. You know how you get really sore after you work out the next day? Well, what you've done is you've kind of changed your muscle a little bit to where there might be a little bit of damage to it. And so what your body does is it recognizes that, and then it'll send proteins back to the muscle so that it can rebuild that damage, okay? So it repairs itself. Proteins are also found in your nails, in your hair, in your skin, and so your body's constantly having to repair itself and maintain like a stable condition. We call that homeostasis, and protein is definitely like a key thing in making sure that happens, okay? All right, great. So you should have written down these notes. You should have written down the stuff I've underlined. You should have written down the stuff I wrote. I already told you. And then the picture, you know, I don't know if it's necessary for you to see the picture, well, to write the picture or draw it, but, you know, it'll be available on Google Classroom on the slides too. So to sum this up, what I would like to do is actually go through this. So there's DNA inside this nucleus, right? DNA cannot leave the nucleus. So it has to be transcribed, right? I'll put a T for short. And it has to be transcribed into another type of molecule called RNA. RNA is allowed to leave the nucleus, so it leaves it and it goes to this ER. The ER then it'll read it, it'll read that RNA molecule, and it'll make protein. Where does the protein go next? The protein actually has to be packaged, and it's sent to this structure here called the Golgi. And remember, the Golgi is the one that packages and distributes the protein in structures called vesicles, as you can see here. And then it has to go across the cell membrane out to wherever it's needed. Okay? And that's it.